Good morning, everyone. It is Tam over here at HaulandCo, and I wanted to pop on and do a video and show you what I have created for on-the-go crafting. I had talked to some people, and we had talked about crafting and how we have our craft space, and we get tied to those things that we like to craft with on a daily basis. And sometimes if we're traveling, or if you have limited mobility, or you craft in a separate area, then you like to watch TV or be with your spouse. This is just something really easy that you can make and carry with you wherever you go. For instance, this past weekend was Labor Day, and we were camping. So I wanted to take a few little things in case I had some time, which I didn't, to do some of my crafting. So what I did is I tied up a small basket with just some little stitching projects that I can use in my journals. So for instance, this is one of those stitching projects that I had done before. I love the tattered, sewn around the edges, little sewn patches. So I had created this out of one of my Tim Holtz items, and then this is just a piece of fabric that was discarded, which I believe was a piece of one of my quilt blocks. So I just took some thread and sewed around the edges, and I love to use these in my journals, on the front of my journals, on a journaling card. I just think they're super cute. And I just love the haphazard, imperfect sewing, which is a lot like the journaling, and honestly a lot like life. Things are just not perfect. So I like to take a bunch of items to create these. So this is just a piece of my favorite fabric. This fabric is from a vintage pillowcase, which I used in the last video in a pillowcase journal. So I just tied everything up with this piece of fabric. These old vintage cotton pillowcases, they're my favorite to use in my journals. They tear easy to give that rough edge. They coffee stain and coffee dye easily, which I'll show you a piece of that. So just to keep everything from falling out, I did tie it up with one of those. I put inside just my favorite glue stick, and then I have just some of the laces that I thought I might use. A lot of these are scraps or cheaper laces, and I love to wrap my lace around old clothespins. I think it looks cute, and I'll have to do a tour here of my craft space in a video soon. But I just stuck a couple of these in there. Also put in my favorite scissors. They're small and easy to use for sewing. I have one of my small jars. These came in a pack of 4, I think, from the Dollar Tree. And this is what I keep my needles in, so I always know where they are. I have these small tins, and inside the tin, I put buttons and some beading, some of my loop pins, just some of the things that I could use to put on my little clusters. I also brought some thread. I'm getting ready to start a sunflower journal, so I have some sunflower pieces in here. So I brought yellow thread to do the stitching like we did here. And then I brought some of my silver thread as well, which got a little bit caught up. This is one of the old spools that came in a $5 box of items that my husband purchased for me at an auction, and someone had started wrapping some thicker thread or yarn around this, and that thicker yarn and this old thread is exactly what I like to sew around the edges with. And then what I did is I took a piece of fabric that I could also use in some of my clusters. I tied it with some more of that string. So this is the thread or the string. If you find this on your packages, as a side note, that you can pull apart, you know, in pieces of 2 or 3, however thick, And I keep them wound around here, and that's also what I like to use as edging. So everything here has a purpose. So then inside are just a bunch of scraps that I tossed in that I could use on the cluster. So we could look at those. In the back, I have some more of the pillowcase, like that I had wrapped around that I'm ready to use. This is another piece of the pillowcase that was left that had some of the design on it. So I'm going to be using that. I cut off a couple or a few pieces of ribbon, and I'll show you how. So like for this. So this is a piece, I believe, of Tim Holtz that came out of one of my packages of ephemera. I glued it on a piece of ribbon such as this, and then I used that thread or string that a lot of people tie packages with, and I did sew around the edges. So this one's complete. Let's look at another one. This one's complete. And so what we could do, let's look at these. We could take one of these buttons and put here in the corner, or let's look for a piece of ribbon or lace to put behind, and then we could glue that, and then we would just have a cute little cluster that you can use on a journaling card or just about anywhere. This is one that I got glued on that I would still want to stitch around. And then these are the pillowcases, and these are coffee dyed. So these are ready to use in one of my journals. So I stuck those in the back. I brought my Distress Oxide. Vintage Photo is what I do. Use a pink. I have different colors, but Vintage Photo seems to be the one I go to a lot. Again, I have some quilting scrap. These are just some paper scraps. Then I have a small paper journal that I created. And then I'm like, if I get a bunch of items done, I can either, use these papers, use this as a journal, or just use this however I want. If you paint and you're out camping somewhere, this could be, you could sketch on these tiny pages, keep some items. For instance, while we were gone and on a walk, I found this feather. And to me, finding feathers has meaning. So I will be using this in one of my journals. And then I did cut up some of my Stamperia, however you say it. Some of my items from there, and then online. I don't remember where all of these came from. Again, to just use as journaling cards, stitching around the edge, just those small touches. I had a couple labels, some scrap paper. I love to use, this came from a cookie from a deli, and I love to use these to press flowers or items that you find. Some of my paper, and then a lot of the these came from the back of the Stamperia, however you say it. And then these are the items that I would use, like, and then sew around the edge. So this is just a sample of a small sewing kit that you can take anywhere if you feel like if you want to craft or put things together while you're out and about. A lot of us, like I said, we hate leaving our crafting space. So my husband does ham radio, and he creates these items called a to-go box. And so he said, make you a to-go box. So this is my to-go box. And if you have someone who's in a hospital and they like to sew or do small projects, I purchased this basket at a vintage store, and it was $2. Then a lot of my stuff is just snippets of ribbons and laces and things like that. But this is something, you know, you can go to the Dollar Tree and get a sewing kit for $1. This is just a cool gift if you know someone who, you know, has mobility issues, can't get out like they would like to, you know, needs something to do now that winter's coming. Just a really nice little way to do crafting. And it just fits in a small little box. Kind of thoughtful. And that's what I have for you. So I encourage you, let me know in the comments if you have a to-go box. You know, everyone back in the day carried a sewing box everywhere. So, and I remember, you know, people doing stitching, they would carry things tied up in, you know, cloth. I know they still do that in Ukraine and some other countries. They just keep their projects at hand in the kitchen or wherever. So let me know what you do, and I will be talking to you in the comments, and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.